there. I thought she got the ball.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack here, joined by a panel of Adrian Stroka, Sam here, and Jonny. Adrian filling in for Dave, who's still under the weather at the moment. Should be back by tomorrow, hopefully, and we'll just go on because at the moment, Spurs are experiencing injuries. Irish Hotspur's experiencing injuries. The show must go on. The road must be continue to be traveled. But yeah, everybody, this is going to be your therapy session. And it's going to be a conversation about a couple of things, really. I think some very important questions that I did ask some people on the fan show yesterday evening. So please, everybody, get your thoughts and comments into the chat. Good to see some people with us. Smash the like button as well. But we're going to get straight into this one. We are going to ask, the panelists how they're doing. But yeah, we want to be as efficient as we can today because we have a few things to discuss. Adrian, you're next to me, so I'll go to you first, sir. Thanks for filling in for Dave. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, but growing increasingly frustrated with a lack of activity in this transfer window. We've got 6 days now. The window closes Monday at 11 o'clock UK time. And what are our recruitment team doing? They've had since the summer to compile lists. What are they doing?
Yeah, well, I don't know, twiddling their thumbs. It feels like Levy has somehow surpassed our already very low expectations of him this January transfer window. Jonny, just beneath Adrian there. How are you? Recovering, I assume, as per usual.
Yeah, not me again, Darren. I know you. Go and get your tyres fixed. What was I going to say to you? Yeah, it's quite interesting. Listen, it's very toxic out there. Having an opinion could get you into serious trouble. Look, if you're Ange in, good for you. If you're Ange out, good for you. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, guys. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But just because I feel that Ange isn't going to make it, don't make me a criminal, right? So if you don't like it, jog on, okay? Jog on, because that's what you're going to get from me right at the moment. Unfortunately, the one thing I would say, guys, is I think that the two issues have been conjoined, really, and I just think that they should be separate. The Levy out is one thing. And Ange's performance as a manager since January 2024 is another. And they should be separate. They should not be interlinked, in my opinion. Listen, a lot of people will disagree. But I think they're standalone issues. One is a 24-year-old issue, and one is a relatively new issue, which is getting worse and worse and worse. And they should be judged individually. But unfortunately, they're all lumped together. And one's protecting the other and vice versa. I don't know what you guys think.
Controversial takes as per usual from Jonny. You are, in fact, allowed an opinion. I think especially around this period as well, where Spurs are losing games thick and fast. I think it's pretty easy to have a variety of different takes and opinions of what's the real reason, what's the problem. And like you say there, you can also maybe distinguish between, what is a bigger issue versus what is a smaller issue. And you can definitely put blame on everyone's doorstep right now. Jonny, I don't think you've said anything that controversial. And we have some 3 important questions as well for later, Jonny, kind of all centered around, kind of just the situation we're in. Part of it's just about this relegation battle, whether you actually take it seriously or not. If you do, I have some interesting questions following up after that, basically about what we do from here. If you don't, I also have some interesting follow-ups about what we should be doing, or maybe should we still try to remain as patient as possible. So good controversial questions for today that I think it will come with a variety of different answers. Sam, though, before we get to those questions I have lined up, how are you, sir? And then we'll get the show underway.
Well, I'm certainly not entertained, Jack, that's for sure. I hope everyone's well. Adrian, good to see you on. Jonny, always good to be on with you.
Yeah, mate.
Even if you've got to defend yourself every time I see you, but that's where we are right now. Yeah, look, I mean, I was maybe lucky enough to only be able to sort of watch the game with one eye on my lap while I was at dinner for my sister's birthday on Sunday. So I didn't watch it in with full scrutiny, but it looks like I missed a cracker of a game. And yeah, it's just we seem to be sinking further and further down to the point where when people are making fun of me, I'm just like, I don't even watch football. I like rugby. So it's tough out here at the moment, but here we are. We're going to try and offer some therapy, and we move.
Probably just put on your best American accent, pretend to be American that doesn't even care about football. That's what I try to do, at least with the NFL. It actually helps me out a lot. I wish I could only do that with the football more often. Just going to say hello to some regular faces, some regular people, and then I promise we will get into this one because I do want to make the best use of these people's time. I have Moondog in here saying, I've had enough of this club. I've not felt this low since we got relegated. Moondog, a lot of people seem to be at their lowest right now. It's bottom basement levels of Spurs. Shemtan saying, hey, Jack and Dave in the panel, 7 years ago, or I think he means 6 years ago, Champions League final. Now we're on our sixth manager, and now we're looking at possible relegation battle. How are people still defending Levy and Enoch? I don't think many people are defending Levy and Enoch, at least I hope not, at least at this stage. Tartan Spurs saying, lads, checking into my therapy session, struggling to see a way out of this, but we have to somehow find a way to dig in, bite down on the gum shield. But my God, has my mental health taken a battering. Definitely Spurs are more reason to maybe make your mental health a bit spicier. If you need something to worry about, if you need something to be stressed about, I say Tottenham Hotspur is a good remedy, a good prescription. K32, good to see you as well. Dan Coy saying, hi, Dave and Jack. Hopefully you're feeling a bit better once everyone's back. I think we'll do okay. No time to recover, though, between games. It's not helping at the moment. Stevie Frazier, best midfielder around, as well as the other best midfielder around. Shawnee Maddox is in with us. So many other faces, but like I said, do have to make the best use of time. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Smash the like button and feel free to get into the comments and give us your opinions. But we have to start off with this important question. I am going to go to Johnny first on this because I am curious about how seriously he does take it. Do you really take this relegation scrap or battle seriously, Johnny? We're 24 points with 15 games left to play. For us to even get to the 40-point mark, that would mean we would need to actually average pretty much more than 1 point per game. We are 7 points off of Leicester. We're only one space off of the relegation zone. Do you take this relegation battle seriously at all? Or do you think, it's being exaggerated, let's say?
I think we're a very, very lucky football club, to be truthful with you, because there are 3 teams that are diabolical. I know one of them beat us on the weekend. In fact, well, there are 2 of them beat us actually. So I think it's difficult, but you cannot ignore the fact that we've won 9 games in the last 10 months. And when you look at those games, you look at Burnley, Sheffield United, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, good win against Aston Villa, beat the worst Man United team probably in the last 40 years, and the start of a Man City team that was basically in freefall. That is not good, however you want to dress it up. I'm like myself. There are many who go home and away, and we have to endure this. It's like double punishment. When you go and watch, I'm not saying that the fans that watch on TV are any less passionate, but when you watch on the television and it's over, you switch off your TV and you're peed, right? When you drive up to Everton or Liverpool, wherever it may be, believe me, that drive home 5-6 hours, having to digest it all is hard. I've listened to all the excuses. This is not a blip. I hear the injuries and this, that, and the other. 16 defeats in 2024. 4 defeats in 2025 already. Only the second time in our history that this has happened. The stats are there. I know stats.
Conceding 60 goals in a season was bad. This is like 10 times, that sort of level.
Look, we're breaking all sorts of records, and it doesn't give me any pleasure. People seem to think that because you called this, and I thought that Ange wasn't up to it, that I'm getting some sort of sick pleasure in watching this. I don't get any pleasure getting in a car or people flying out on a plane and witnessing this. And the pain of the defeat week in and week out. I'd rather be sat here, like I said to you many times, and to Dave and to any stream I've ever been on, I'd be happy to sit here and say, you know what, I got it wrong. Ange Postecoglou got it absolutely right. I got it absolutely wrong, and I hold my hands up. I don't have a problem with that. I just want the club to win, like every single fan in this fan base. even though we're split right now, and I don't ever remember it being this bad, even under Conte, I don't remember it being this bad. We all know what Levy has done, and Levy hasn't helped Ange, that's for sure, in the way he's carried on in this window. But I do feel that Ange hasn't helped himself with his non-rotation, saying he doesn't have players. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that this team, this squad, is a squad that should ever be in 15th place, even with the injuries. But do I feel that it's going to be in relegation trouble? At the moment, not. But you would say with Brentford away,
you're making the point. We're just lucky there happens to be a lot of more shit teams this year. It's not us. It's not a credit to us or anything. It's just other teams happen to be worse. Who clearly don't even have the same level of resources as we do. So it's just the fact that maybe we have players left over from previous regimes, etc., that just allow us to be able to survive. But
years gone by, I think we would have been in trouble. I mean, I really do. But with Brentford and Man United coming up, they're two really tough games, and I wouldn't be surprised if we lost both. But I would be here jumping up and down with joy if we got a win and a draw against them, and we somehow beat Liverpool in the cup. And the mood changes, and hopefully that will happen.
Yeah. I mean, Adrian, I'll go to you next. Darren Johnson saying this is not a drill. Do you take this relegation battle seriously, or do you think it's being exaggerated?
I'll be lying if I said it wasn't a nagging doubt, but I'm not fretting over it. We've got sufficient points. Looks like we'll finish mid-table. If we beat Elfsberg Thursday, I'm going to the game. That will give us a bit of a breathing space, because then we won't be in the playoffs. So it means between the 9th and the 22nd of February, we won't be playing midweek games, and we need a breather of some sort. Maybe even if we were, to go out in the FA Cup, I mean, that would free up space later on, because our injury crisis has got worse with Maddison out and Basuma and Sarr not fit. It's about 12 players. But I'm hopeful in this transfer window. They've got to do something. All this promise about bringing players in like Tyler Diblin and Angel Gomez in the summer, that's just not good enough. We need at least 2 in now. And but like I said, if we beat Elfsberg, and they won't be in good form, because their league doesn't start till late March, early April, and it goes through to November, because the weather out there in Sweden is, it's different climate to what we have here. So they're not even playing football. If we can't beat Elfsberg, we might as well all pack up and go home, So
I felt that way after Leicester, to be fair. But
we've got a chance in the cups. I mean, we need to get a draw at Liverpool to go through. You never know what Spurs are going to turn up, right? We know if you can go away and beat Man United and Man City away, you can beat anyone on your day, but so can everybody else beat you on their day as well. That's what the Premier League's like.
Doesn't it feel like that was a long time ago? Maybe, I know recency bias, Adrian. Doesn't that feel like that was almost too long ago? Like the Man City performance, even the Man United performance. It's just been so many defeats, so many poor performances that it almost feels so long ago at this stage.
Yeah, it does. I agree. It does. And the results haven't been good enough.
Yeah.
They haven't been good enough. But, there are underlying circumstances. I mean, other teams have had injuries as well, but then other teams haven't played the amount of games we've played. If you take Brentford and Brighton and teams like that, or Brentford and Bournemouth, we'll have played 8 Europa League games come Thursday, 4 League Cup games. So all the teams that have been knocked out of those competitions in round 1 will have played 11 games less than us. They're playing 1 game a week. And it's different injuries, and people want to conflate variables. Like Johnny was alluding to, people are trying to conflate Ange with our ownership. 2 different arguments, really, 2 different debates, right? 100%. And you can't do that. And the variables are, if you look at us, what's key? We lose their 2 best centre-backs and their number 1 goalkeeper, whether you argue that Kinski's better than Vicario now or not, right? And not one of their centre-backs, apart from Romero, whether you like him or not, and I am a fan, right? He progresses the ball upfield. We're a different team when he's bringing the ball out. Sometimes you should move it quicker. So there's so many variables to why we are in this situation. And it goes down to the ownership and Levy and the board. And I'm glad that the fans have turned their attention more, whether you're Ange in or out, have turned their attention more to Levy than they have to Ange. I'm glad about that, because that board did nothing and didn't do nowhere near enough work in January, right? And then we've come through and we've got injuries. And then that compounds the problem. You've now got overplayed players which are tired. Tired players lose their speed or fall on the pitch, mistimed tackles. Lots goes on. I mean, I don't have to explain to you guys. You guys are well-informed guys, you know what I mean? So I'll leave my little bit of a rant there, Jack. You're muted, Jack.
Jack.
Classic. Sorry, classic. Sam, I was going to say, do you agree with what Johnny said there about it's actually just us being lucky, right? It's not even, we are in fact terrible. We're just perhaps maybe not as bad as some of the other teams at the bottom of the table. So we'll get lucky this year. But if it were any other season, maybe we would be in the relegation zone already.
I think there's always going to, I do agree with Johnny. I think there's, but do I think that any other season would be different? I think there's always going to be like 3 teams that are not good enough to be in the league. And, you know, you could argue all you want, the form that we've been on for, you know, a considerable amount of time now suggests that we aren't good enough to be in the league. I think maybe we look at it from a bit of a selfish, like big club mentality of we're way too big to go down, which I can get behind. And I think that like I actually am in that position where it's like I just, as much as the results are terrible and I'm nervous, I don't think we will go down. Based on what? Just the fact that I don't think we'll go down. And you know, it's
like Everton,
because exactly when you look at it though, and you actually try and make sense of it, you know, Johnny says that there's 3 teams that are worse than us. Well, 2 of those teams have beaten us this season.
Yeah,
right? We end every single poor team's bad run. I think that you can't get away from that. And whether you backhand, you don't backhand, you back Levy, you don't back Levy, those are the facts, right? You know, Ipswich came to us, we ended their winless streak. Crystal Palace, winless streak. Even Wolves, in the last 3 games we've played against Wolves, they've beat us twice and drawn.
And you wouldn't say, Sam, quickly, you wouldn't say that the lower teams are the teams that we were, quote unquote, which I've said plenty of times, unlucky against, right? You know, these are teams that actually outclassed us, just outplayed us. Like Crystal Palace outplayed us, Ipswich outplayed us, Wolves outplayed us, to a degree, Leicester kind of outplayed us in that second half. Like that's the other scary thing. It's not like the whole Ange is unlucky argument really applies to these bottom teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I can't really remember that many games this season that we've lost where I have really thought, oh man, we were really unlucky. The only ones that really spring to mind, like I'm sure there are some out there that I'm not thinking of, but the only 2 that really spring to mind are both games against Newcastle. You know, that those games we pretty much battered them off the pitch, and they had you know, moments of luck and moments of good play that undid us. Maybe that's because we were sloppy. Maybe it's because they were better than us in those moments. But, you know, the reality is still the same. We dropped those points. My concern is, and I think that people who are still 100% behind Ange can agree with this, is when we play well, we are really good. You know, you look at some of the performances we've got. You know, we battered City off the pitch. We beat Villa really heavily. We beat Everton. We beat West Ham. But when we're bad, we're genuinely one of the worst teams to watch. And I don't even mean necessarily in the Premier League. I mean, like, you know, we are one of the worst teams to watch. We look like 11 players that are just thrown together who've never played together before. And I think that's only emphasized at the moment by the fact that Kulusevski, for example, is a main player, and even the young players who were doing well, but Kulusevski mainly, is just so tired that even Kulu is not looking great at the moment. And all of us have been saying, you know, Kulu's been unbelievable this season. When you look at the metrics of how he performs against other players in his position, he's streaks ahead, right? But I don't know what the reason is 100%. I've got my opinions. I do buy into the narrative that it is a training thing, because the vast majority of our injuries have been from training. I can't remember who was saying it, but they were listing the injuries that we've had recently, and it's not even really new players that are getting injured. It's players that are injured and then coming back and then getting injured like a few games later. So a lot of our injuries are coming from, re-injuries. Maybe that's poor squad management. Maybe it's also to do with the poor medical department. I mean, they're looking on LinkedIn, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Trying to find a new medical department. I just think there's so many factors right now, and I do, to take it back to the original question, I do think we're too good to go down. And I think that once we start to get players back, we will go on some sort of run. I think our cap genuinely is outside of Europe, like, maybe like 10th to 12th, I think is like a genuine position for us, because we still don't know when these players will come back. But I do think that we'll start to, put in some good performances. But I mean, I was looking at some of the fixtures that we've got coming up towards the end of the season, and like, forget all the cups, but like Brentford away is going to be a tough game. Aston Villa, sorry, that's the cup game. Man United, they're going to be a tricky game, because they are going to think that they can beat us. Ipswich have already beat us, and we're going away. They're going to be desperate to get some sort of result there. We've got to play Man City. We've got to play Bournemouth. We've got to play Fulham. We've got to play
Liverpool.
Chelsea. Yeah, then we've got Southampton. Okay, maybe a bit of a breather, but based on how other things are going, there's a little bit of nerves somewhere in the background. You've got to go to Wolves. You've got to play Forest again. You've got to play Liverpool, West Ham, Villa, Brighton. That's the end of the season. There's only a handful of games in there that you look at it based on how things are going now, and you say we should get the win there, because I'm sure that all of us were thinking the last two games we should have got the wins, right? Everton and Leicester. Everton had managed, I think it was like 0.78 goals per game in the previous 10 games or something leading up to our game. We're losing 3-0 by half time. I think that the fact that we managed to pull 2 goals back, one kind of spares our blushes a little bit, because on paper it looks like 3-2, it's a tight game. But Everton kind of gave up, and their lack of quality showed in the second half when we actually sort of came into it. But it is just poor at the moment, and as much as I don't think we'll go down, because as I say, we're too good, there is a nagging feeling that anything could happen.
There's a scary feeling that guys like David Moyes, these relegation type style managers, or guys that are conservative, pragmatic, know how to deal with squads like Everton's, seem to have Ange's number. Like, David Moyes has a very good record when you think about it against Ange so far. And some of these bottom teams seem to have a very good record against Ange, which makes the relegation worries a bit stronger. Johnny, you were going to say something there, and then I have a follow-up
just to
question.
say, look, let's look for a crumb of comfort and some good news. We are only 14 points off of 7th. Okay, so, don't give up hope yet. Don't give up hope. There's always hope.
And Johnny, Man City and Chelsea might get relegated, so it might go down to 9th.
Yeah, well, listen, we could be. Look, the thing is, of football, no matter what the game, ever since I was a kid, no matter who we were playing, you go to the game with hope and dreams of coming away with a victory. And often, as a Spurs fan, you come away, upset or whatever. And, I can always take a defeat, because that's part and parcel of football. What I find difficult to accept is when the players or the team don't seem to be giving their all. And I'm not saying they're not giving their all now. So don't misconstrue what I'm saying. There've been certain games like Crystal Palace where they just didn't turn up. And Ipswich, where we rested all our first team players, Guy. First team fielded a strong team and lost to Ipswich. No excuses. But I feel at the moment, I'm getting very frustrated with the team selections and the substitutions, and very much so on the weekend there. Playing Papa Sarr when he already had an injury and now aggravating that injury where he's going to be out, likely to be out for 3 weeks. Not playing James Maddison because he was sore, who's out for another 3 weeks, but playing Papa Sarr, playing Archie Gray when Archie Gray is in the red zone, big in the red zone, when he could have played Reguilon and given him a rest. Why? Because Reguilon's cup tied for the game against Elfsberg in the week, and it would have given him an opportunity to be rested. But no, it didn't happen. And then overplaying Richie, who probably had 20, 25 minutes against Hoffenheim, but was played 55 minutes against Hoffenheim, even though he was out on his feet after 30 minutes. And then playing him again for 55 minutes against Leicester on the weekend, to the point now where he's aggravated and now he's got a groin injury. Now, the fans would just say, well, that's Richie, right, because he's always injured. But my point here is, why are you pushing? And this is not a new phenomenon, Jack. He rushed back Romero, okay, throwed him in, extra injury, aggravated it, out for much longer. The same with Mickey van der Ven. And, this thing where he says he can't rotate. These are the things that I find more aggravating now coming away from the game than having no heart, because you can't say the players didn't want it, but they looked out on their feet, right? And they had an inability to do anything about it. But when I see Will Lancashire coming on as a 94th minute substitution, if he's not good enough, Ange, get him out the club, send him out on loan. Oh, no, but we need to keep him just in case we got an injury. What, like now, you mean? You want to throw him into the furnace of Galatasaray, throw a young kid into that, but then say he's not good enough to play against Tamworth. He couldn't handle the pressure at Tamworth, but he handled, and maybe he hasn't forgiven him for the sending off against Galatasaray. Who knows? But I just think there's some really strange decisions going on. And this is what I've been walking away from the pitch and these games in the last, 3 or 4 games, feeling more aggrieved at that than some of the players' application, because they're running on empty.
Just maybe a question to Adrian here, and then I do want Jonny and Sam to also get their thoughts on this, but I'll use Moondog Super Chat as kind of a caveat towards it. My follow-up was, after do you think we're in a relegation battle do you think a different manager, in fact, could inherit this very shit situation, but it's do better, right? And then carry us up the league and maybe even get us through some of these very important cup games. And Moondog is asking, with all these injuries, why don't we sit back a bit? We do try to sit back a little bit in the second half, Adrian. It's just that when we do sit back, we don't really look that good at it, if you get what I mean. Yeah, I think we're trying to be a bit more pragmatic, especially in the second half. It's just maybe it's not Ange's way, and so therefore he's not actually that good at setting up a well-drilled defensive team to see out a 1-0 win or something like that. We just genuinely don't look good at protecting leads.
Yeah, game management's poor, and we have sat back in quite a lot of games. I've seen changes, whether people would define them as being as adaptations or not. I've seen changes, and we have sat back, but it hasn't helped us, not with schoolboy errors. I mean, I lost count at 15 goals conceded on our right-hand side. Lost count of that, right? And then even with that, it's the same again against Ipswich, right? You look at them 2 goals on our right-hand side, Porro's side again, right? And he's been hit and miss defensively this season. When he's good, he's very good, but that's usually when he's going forward. Rarely he puts a block in back on that right-hand side. And then I question because I think that's our weakness and teams will attack our right-hand side. I question, what is the right centre half and right-sided midfield player doing? Because if you know Porro's going to go galloping forward, then someone has to have the IQ and the intelligent awareness to sort of cover for it. And he is good going forward, but you've got to have the IQ to cover for it. And
I was just going to say, Adrian, right? I've gone on about for a year now, and I still believe now. I would love to see Brennan Johnson out the squad into the reserve when he's fit, and I'd love to see Jed Spence in the right back position, right, and have Pedro Porro on the right wing. All he needs to concentrate on is getting forward, getting the ball into the box, having his shots, and you've got Jed Spence who can do his overlapping runs, and if necessary, you've got Porro who can track back. Those overlapping runs give us much more strength down that right-hand side than what we've got right now, because no one is tracking back. No one is tracking back. And if you've seen Jed Spence with his marauding runs, when he picks up the ball, it's okay for Porro to then drop back into that pocket. Whereas, as you say, right now, he's going forward and there's no one there. But that's on Ange. He is only following Ange's directions, right?
And to add to that, on the right-hand side, I mean, I don't believe that Udogie, when he's fit and well, and he's been poor because he was injured pre-season. He didn't have a proper pre-season. He came in, he was hit and miss and poor, really. Udogie was poor. And he tends to get more overloads with Maddison and Sonia on the left, whereas, as Johnny's just alluded to, when Porro goes forward, and I've warmed to Johnson this season because he's got composure and he can finish. He is a good finisher, much better than I thought he was. But what you're not getting on that right-hand side when Porro inverts, as Johnny's just alluded to, you're not getting overloads down the left.
Right.
So he's stranded, really, Johnson. So I've got a bit of sympathy for him. He had a very defensive game against Man City in the League Cup and things like that. He's only overshown it a couple of times. And I think Ange tells his wingers to sort of park themselves on the white line, But, that didn't work very well recently, in games we've played when we have conceded goals and players haven't got back. And I just wonder, with this right-sided midfield player and right-sided centre-back, that Porro's going forward. That should trigger something in you straight away. Right, don't want to split with the other centre-back. But even it means if you've got two, the left-sided, they both move so you don't split a line between the centre-backs, don't get split. You just shift a little over to the right slightly, right? And you can follow the ball. And if it means you then shift back or get central, But
I mean, Jimmy Hotspur, just to say, I'm agreeing with you. That's why I said, if anyone knows me, before we even signed Porro on Wyscout, I've said, this guy is not a right back, right? He's not even a brilliant wing back. What he is a very good right winger. He's dangerous. And he's the only person I can think of that we've got in this squad since Perisic who doesn't need to beat his man to cross the ball. He can whip a ball in from a dead ball situation. We don't have anyone really whipping the balls in.
Bergvall can do it.
Bergvall can, but I'm saying on the wing, we need look. Ange's system relies on the wing, and I would say I will pull Porro up though. On the two occasions he got to the byline on Sunday,
selfish.
He didn't follow Ange's instructions, which is to pull that ball back into the box, and he shot. On both occasions. I'm not saying we would have scored, but that's drummed into him, that thing. But I do believe Spence at right back, Porro as the right winger, right, will really offer us strength down that right-hand side and the overlap much more danger down there. Because right now, as Adrian said, we are getting exposed over and over and over again on that right-hand side. And I don't understand why Ange hasn't seen anything. But there we're talking about Ange, who wouldn't even play Jed Spence. So I doubt if he's thought about him at right back or at right wing.
I'm not going to defend Ange when it comes to Pedro Porro and Spence and whether he could maybe put Porro in a different position. I do want to play devil's advocate here, though, with Porro. I wonder if he is more of just that annoying type player that is really specific to a really specific position in a type of system that suits him, where if he is to be put at right wing, is he really the guy that can take on his fullback, create a bit of space? I think he more can do that if he's more in the position of a right wing back or even as a fullback, because fullbacks and right wing backs usually are allowed a bit more space to whip in crosses than a winger. A winger, plenty of times, they'll have a guy touch tight to them and they'll have to work and create that space themselves by taking on their fullback. And Porro, to me, I think he can do it, but he's not really a winger type guy that can take on his fullback, create that bit of space and whip in across. I think he benefits from having a winger next to him to occupy that space, and then they can play it back towards him and he can then whipping across for them. If you kind of get the distinction I'm making there, I'm not sure if he's the type of guy that could deal well with someone being right up on him the whole game.
Look at the recovery runs that he's having to do, Pedro Porro, right? How this guy is still going. Listen, I hear all the criticism, but how this guy is still going, I really don't know. He is playing every minute of every game, and the amount of runs and the recovery runs he's got to do. I mean, there's one thing here, you know, it wasn't that long ago when if you were playing the high line, the flag went up straight away from the linesman, and that was it. That part of the play was dead. What we've got now is the ball goes over the top, and the defenders don't know. The linesman's not flagging, so they have to track back over and over again, needlessly. God knows how many times. I don't know how many times needless runs are made by our team, by our backs, by our wing backs, by our centre backs. These recovery runs. If we went back to the old system of putting your hand up or putting the flag up when it was a blatant offside, I'm not talking about when it's close. I'm talking about when it's blatant and they're allowing them to go on, and the defenders are having to go back with them and do recoveries. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping the backs, and that's why we're getting so many injuries.
And another issue, Johnny, is the fact that Decky's too gassed to help Porro out like he was last season. He's just too gassed to do it to get back. You can see when he goes on his runs, and then it goes. He just slows completely and he tries to hold the ball up. I actually think you could play Spence behind Porro, but not as a winger. I know we haven't seen him in sort of a midfield position. I don't see Porro as a winger as you do, Johnny, but I can see him doing a job. I can't see him doing any worse in midfield. He'd give us a bit more grit there as well than what we get shown from.
I think if you allow him to patrol those wide areas, like he can be very dangerous. It's just that if we were to use him in the same way we use the wingers in this system,
corner flag and get the odd cross in. But Porro doesn't have to get down a corner flag to stick a cross in. He can put one when he's halfway in your opponent's half and whip them in, like he did for Richie's goal. You know, like he's done before when he's put them. He's got I mean, technically, he's a great player, but he's
go and look. Adrian, go and look. Guys, if you get time, go and look at Porro's Sporting clips.
It's an awesome highlight reel.
I'm talking about, you know, I watched him on Y Scout before he came, and you know, I believe that's what we paid the money for. You know, he wasn't bought to play in Angie's system, which unfortunately, whether you like it or not, I believe exposes everybody. Destiny Udogie, right? When I watched him play in Italy, he's picking up the ball on the far left-hand side like a proper wing-back, and he's driving forward with pace, cutting in and causing havoc. He doesn't have that here. He's inverted. He's running into traffic. It's like Piccadilly Circus. Everyone's so inverted. And it's a different ball game. I just feel like it exposes everyone, and we're not seeing the best of all the players. That's my opinion. It's not right.
Well, another thing, Johnny, I mean, like the ball, he did it from midfield, that forward ball to Maddison for the first goal against Hoffenheim. Just from a midfield position.
Correct.
I mean, and I think he can do a job that I know we're well stocked in midfield. You've got 7 already if you include Maddison.
So I think he's a winger.
Yeah. So he's a bit, you could, I think, I mean, people would laugh. I think you could slot him in there. I think you could slot him in there, especially with the injuries you got now.
Well, do you want to take Jason Bell's here? He's saying 40 months, by the way, crazy. Even people are reaching a 40-month milestone. Thank you so much, Jason. But Sam, I mean, you haven't said anything for a while, so how about take Jason's here saying, totally agree with Spence at right back. Johnny, I'm loving this. Porro at right wing. Don't make Porro have to defend. Do you agree with Johnny that Porro should be tried out as a right winger? He hasn't tried it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I agree with a lot of what Johnny's just said there. I've also been sort of on this, banging this drum of I do think that Porro should play as right wing. I disagree with you, Adrian, not because I don't think that he'd be a decent midfielder, but I just don't think he's got the concentration to do the job that we need. And I think that goes back to one of the points that Johnny made, which I made like months and months ago, and you know, it didn't get the sort of traction I hoped it would at the time. But the system that we play as Jonny said, exposes everyone. And I said months ago, everyone has to play perfectly every single minute of every single game for the system to work, in my opinion. Because if they don't, and as we've seen with Porro's side, and you were saying it's over 15 goals conceded from that side, Adrian. As soon as he gets caught up the pitch, we just don't. I personally don't think it's the centre back's fault. I think it's the midfielder's fault, and maybe the winger's fault for not dropping into that space. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to see the same thing over and over and over again. Every team plays exactly the same way. It took Hoffenheim 45 minutes to figure it out, right? But once they did, they just kept playing that ball to the left-hand side because we had nothing. We had no bodies there. And I disagree with Jack's point about you're not sure if Porro could be the right kind of winger because he doesn't play how our wingers are playing. But I think that we're all agreed that our wingers are not doing what Ange wants of them. Or they're not playing Ange's role effectively.
Yeah.
From as far as I can tell, and I think that this is part of the reason why Sonny has been so poor, is that the wingers are supposed to be very wide, right? The wingers are supposed to be there, and they're supposed to be putting those balls across the box, not cutting in, playing the inside forward, as we know Sonny is better at doing. And Brennan, in my opinion, has been kind of ignoring what Ange has wanted his wingers to do and just playing that inside forward anyway. I think that in the system that Ange wants, you don't have to play. You don't have to necessarily be a really skillful winger, because you're supposed to have triangles in the midfield that draw players in and create space out wide for the wingers to get in. And as we said, Porro probably has the best delivery in the squad, right? But I don't think that means you need to limit him to be there to play just deep balls over the top to Maddison, because as you said earlier, Adrian, we have missed the ball playing ability of Romero. And Romero last season played countless amounts of those passes over the top to Maddison, to Son, to whoever, but it didn't come off. We're talking about it more now because it came off against Hoffenheim, and it was clearly something that worked. But as Maddison said, he makes those runs a lot. And last season, I can count a lot of times. I can't give you the specific examples, but I remember many a time last season where Maddison did make that run, and either the ball didn't get played to him, or it did and it just didn't quite come off, or it was overhit, or what. But I think that Porro playing right wing, you have a bit of interplay in the midfield, you draw players in, you spray it out to Porro, who's hopefully going to be free. But as you say, he doesn't need to beat his man to whip the ball in. He could just put the ball in. And that's why I think it's so frustrating when you see these clips from the game on the weekend, when you've got Sonny in the middle and you've got Mikey Moore on the back stick, and there's an avenue of 4 or 5 yards that Porro can just smash the ball through. It's not even necessarily the most difficult ball to play, but instead he's gone for a shot from a ridiculous angle where the goalkeeper's already standing in the only place you can score, unless you hit an absolute thunderbolt into the gap between the goalkeeper, the post, and the crossbar. I mean, it's ludicrous when you think about it. But with Porro, I agree with a lot of the comments that I've seen. He is not just physically tired, he's mentally tired, because there's so much that he's being asked to do, obviously paired with the fact that we're losing and it's not working, and he's getting criticism because the goals are coming down his side. He's being asked to do so much. He's being asked to play as a 6. He's being asked to play as a winger. He's being asked to play as a fullback. He's being asked to play as a striker at times, as well as having to, as Jonny said, track back again and again and again. And the midfielders, as I said before, are an issue for me, because they don't seem to have the brain capacity to drop in. Although I will give Sarr, who I think has been poor in recent weeks, he does slot in to play that right back role when Porro does go up. So I do think that he has been missing when he's not played. But he's obviously also really tired, and he's not fit enough to play at the moment either. And we're just having to throw bodies in to fill a void right now, and it's difficult.
Yeah. Earlier, Jerome sent in this, and I did want to answer this, and then I think we'll get back to the Porro discussion. He said, sit back with two average defenders like Dragic and Davies and Porro. It's not so good defensively. Leicester capitalized with us trying to sit back. I think we're inevitably going to have to sit back because we have no players and we have no energy. So it's just sort of natural for your players to eventually become tired, find it difficult to get up and down the pitch, and even find it difficult to sort of work defensively to try to push the other team back and to try to even press high. I think eventually you do kind of have to sit in a little bit and try to not work as hard, basically. And I think with that then comes, basically having to handle the pressure and having to handle, difficult moments defensively. It's just that, like you say, we don't necessarily have the best of defenders personnel wise to maybe deal with, maybe mucking in, sort of trying to deal with this stuff, with a more pragmatic type of defense. But I'll be honest, Jerome, I don't think it's Ange's forte to know how to play that way. I think there are certain managers that are very good at that, very good at, playing with players behind the ball, making things difficult, blocking up the midfield, trying to play a bit more defensive and pragmatic. I just don't think that's Ange's style. But the thing is that he can't play his style of, relentless pressing for 90 minutes because we don't have any players available right now. We don't have any players with any energy left. So we're just in this real, I don't know, rock and a hard place type moment. And then he also says, I agree with Jack. Porro can't take on a man like a proper winger. He needs the help of a winger and a space to whip a ball. I'm going to give my response, and then I want someone to come in on this, and because it seems like everybody feels differently to me on the Pedro Porro thing. I do think Pedro Porro would be better than a Brennan Johnson, I think, and probably better than a Timo Werner. It's just that with the way that Ange has this system set up, it feels like the wingers, usually when they receive the ball, they are often facing their man pretty closely. They don't automatically have a ton of space available to them to just whip in across, like you were saying earlier, Sam. I feel like they have to try to work it past their fullback a little bit. And Pedro Porro, to me, I think he could do it again, probably better than Johnson, probably better than Timo Werner, but I don't think he could do it in the same way that plenty of the wingers that we should have gone after, plenty of the wingers that we should have in the team would do it. The Bakayokos, the Netos, the Maduekes, just your guys that do the basics of driving at their fullback, creating a bit of space, and then putting in a cross after that. I think Pedro Porro can really only do just one of those parts effectively enough. I'm not sure if he can do the other part as much as we might think he can. Against a top-level fullback, I just don't think he could skin him on a regular basis.
But you don't have to. This is my point, Jack. You don't have to skin. Perisic, even at his age, wasn't skinning players. It's the ability to whip in a ball from a dead ball situation that you're not having to beat your man. And I think if you look at the stats, Pedro Porro has got more whipped in balls or more balls into the box than anyone else.
No, he's
There's a stat out there with Pedro Porro. Someone can remind me of it. I don't want to quote it without getting it wrong, which says completely different. So what I would say to you is if he's producing those numbers from a position as a wing back or as a back, what sort of numbers would he be producing if he didn't have to track back 100 yards every single play? I just, listen, I could be wrong. I've said it from the start, since before he even signed for the club, that I see him more as a winger than as a, having watched him, as I said, on Y Scout for Sporting. But listen, look, that's the least of our problems. The problem is we got a manager that said he hasn't got any players to rotate when he did have players to rotate, and now he doesn't. He says he doesn't have any players to rotate, and he does, and he's still not playing them or rotating them. If you want to cut off your nose to spite your face and not play Serge Reguilon, that's up to you. I thought when he came on, he didn't do anything terrible, and he certainly didn't. He certainly wasn't in a position where he was going to lose us a goal. Personally, I'd like to see Kalmuluesi play on against Elfsberg, because we can't afford any more injuries. And although he's very young, he's 17. He's played with Mikey Moore since he was 5 years of age. They've come through England youth together. They've come through the academy together. And I think, even with Will Lancashire, I think you need to play them both. I do not want to see Sonny flogged again against Elfsborg, if possible. I would play those 3 kids and some experience with them, if possible. Elfsborg gave Galatasaray a good run for their money. I think they lost 4-3 to Galatasaray, I think it was. They beat Roma. Was it Galatasaray 4-3? Yeah, 4-3. They lost in the 83rd minute. And they only lost to AZ Alkmaar 3-2 after they had a player sent off, Troy Parrott scoring the penalty. They are going to be, as Adrian said, the season's finished, so they're playing the odd game, but they're lying in 20th position. And they beat Nice on the weekend, but they've also beat Roma at home. Their home record is very good. Can we afford to take the risk is the question. Can we afford to take the risk? What is more important to the club right now? To take a risk and maybe play a couple of kids for a few more minutes in this game, whether it be Lancashire, Oluwasi and Mikey Moore, and have some players who've had a bit of a rest for when we take on Brentford? Or is this the only thing that matters right now, this game? That's the question.
Well, just going back to Jack's earlier point before that on the wingers that skin players, there aren't many wingers in the Premier League that do that. It's mostly reliant on overloads. So he wouldn't have to skin players, Porro, right? But when we push forward, we leave so many gaps in midfield, and we're always outnumbered in midfield. And I just think I get why you want to park 2 wingers on the touchlines, because you keep opposing defenders busy. They got to keep their eyes on you. I just wish our wingers would sit back deep so we got more of a 4-5-1. I think we'd be so much better. We'd have more out balls. We'd have more variations in midfield to pass the ball out there. But going on this game against Elfsborg, we need to win it so as we aren't playing in the playoffs and we get a couple of weeks where we've got no midweek games. And I actually think there was a lot of talk about, if Ange doesn't get a result against Liverpool away in the second semi-final that he's gone. I actually think the whisper will be more from the club, look, we want to win this Europa League because it gives you Champions League football, knowing Levy what he's like, So I actually think that. I think Ange's got no choice to go as strong as he knows. We don't really know the state of these players on the bench. We've all critiqued Ange on his team selections throughout the season. His substitutions, he's got it right sometimes, got it wrong other times. It's easy to be a hindsight critic. But we don't really know the state of these players. Why didn't he start Reguilon? I don't think he trusts him anyway, right? And no other managers trusted Reguilon either. So, and we don't see everything. And to me, I haven't seen enough of him, Johnny, to be honest.
Right. Well, hang on. He played again and again and again for Man United, and Ten Hag said the only reason he sent him back was because he was told that Luke Shaw and the other 2 left backs would be back. And he actually went on and said, I wish I hadn't sent Reguilon back because I was given misinformation from my medical staff. He then went to Brentford.
Thomas Frank used him. Right. Jose used him. Yeah.
Thomas Frank turned around and said he was a valuable part of our team. I don't know if he got 3 assists.
Nuno used him. He got 6 assists out of him. When Nuno was here.
I just believe that if a player can come through the ranks of Real Madrid and play for Real Madrid, Tottenham Hotspur, Atletico Madrid, Man United and Brentford, he can play for 45 minutes to 90 minutes against a team like Leicester and get us through to give Archie Gray a rest, Adrian. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking for him to play every week. I really not.
The only other thing in his background was that partying part of it as well, when he was involved with other players during COVID and things like that. So, I don't know. All I'm saying is he's gone at our club. He hasn't been trusted for some reason, even if he has been utilised elsewhere. I don't know, and I haven't really seen enough of him. He looks good going forward, but defensively, not sure. Need to see it. I haven't seen enough to judge him on that.
Didn't see Leicester have any issues. I didn't see him have any issues with Leicester when he came on as a sub. personally. I think most of the issues came in the after he came on. Before he came on, sorry, should I say.
I do have an important question, though, lads.
Go on.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say, like, on something that Adrian said about the Europa League, like, and how strong we have to be, that he thinks we have to be, which I agree with. Do you think there's some sort of like pro to playing a slightly weakened starting lineup? When I say weakened, I just mean, you know, playing a bit more youth, and then come like 55 minutes, then you start to bring on the bigger players, because what we've seen as a trend for me in the last few games is we've started games pretty well. You know, the Hoffenheim game, we should have been out of sight in that first half, and the Leicester game as well. From the first half, what I saw, we had a few good moments, but then we just get so tired and in the second half. So is there a case that, you know, he could start a few of the younger players in the first half, give them 45, 55 minutes, and then look to bring on some of the big hitters again?
You can do it up front because there's less risk. If a striker misses a goal scoring opportunity, it's not as bad as a defender making a mistake and I can see the goal, right? So I'd love to see Mikey Moore start. I wouldn't be against Lancashire starting either. I think you go as strong as you can, because this will give us a 2-3 midweeks. We get through this game. 2-3 midweeks from the 9th to the 22nd of February. That's where, if you're in the playoffs, and we don't want these 2 extra games. We do not want them now. You know, I mean, I think the Europa League's more important to the club than, as much as I want to win all the cups we're in.
More than top 4, Adrian.
Yeah, it is. We ain't
it's as good as top 4, though, isn't it?
I mean, look, a fan base, Johnny, let's be fair, the fan base is given away probably top 6. We're lucky we finished mid-table. So now, and Angie's safe, because if you parachute someone else in, they've got to still face the same injury problems. And if they want to impose ideas, you need a pre-season to do that and change things. You just can't click your fingers and change things. So I think this Europa League is more important to Levy and the board than the FA Cup or the League Cup. I think the League Cup semi-final, we need to draw. We're capable of getting a draw. Look, if you said, you know, would you put money on in there? Definitely not, right? The way Liverpool flying. But you never know. And no one would be surprised if we went out the FA Cup to Villa. No. But we're already in the qualifying stage of the Europa League now, as we stand now. And there's not many teams actually can overtake us that are below us. And I don't know who's playing each other. I don't want to get involved in that. I'll only worry about that if it goes wonky Thursday. Yeah, so...
And new signing, isn't it? Wonky?
Yeah, the new signing, yeah.
I mean, this was the final question I wanted to end on, guys.
Apparently,
this was the final question I wanted to end on. That was important, lads. If we don't think that Spurs are going to get relegated, then who is the best person to try to give us some sort of hope in these cup competitions, right? Win tomorrow against Elfsborg, take us deep into the Europa League, get us past Aston Villa in the FA Cup, get us to a final in the second leg in this Liverpool game. If you bring in a new manager, would they do better in the cups, knowing that they don't know the team, they don't necessarily know the players, they don't know the situation as well as Ange does? Is Ange a better candidate to try to get us in these, you know, give us something to hope for in these cup competitions, knowing that, you know, he knows the league and he knows his team better than someone else that would come in? So
you got to look at Levy covering his arse, right? Now, 16 managers we've had in 24 years and 1 trophy. That was a great banner that was at the stadium. I hope it made Levy very uncomfortable. And you got to look at it. If you get rid of Ange, Levy's already under pressure. He's under even more intense pressure. I think he's too cunning to do that. I think if he sacks Ange, he'll do it in the summer. Others might disagree, whether you're Ange in or Ange out. I mean, I just don't see the board. We say the board. I don't see Levy pulling the trigger, because the media, the fan base, everything's going to be on him. And now he must have felt very uncomfortable with all the songs at the stadium, and I hope he was, right? And that will be noticeable Thursday as well. I'm sure it will. And like, the more uncomfortable it makes him, to make sure that we get some players in, not promises for the summer, in these next 6 days of the transfer window, which closes on Monday at 11 o'clock. good, as far as I say, good. Because
can I just ask, Adrian, like, what I don't understand is how much worse can it get? It couldn't get, but how much worse could it possibly get? How can it get worse than 16 defeats in 2024? 4 defeats in the start of 2025, only the second time it's happened in history. I could sit here and quote you all the numbers. And what I'm trying to say is, listen, I'm not saying bring this person in, but, if you got Harry Redknapp in there, for example, right, and to see us through to the end of the season, he'll go in there and smash some heads together and tell them some old truths. None of that woke BS, right? Look, this is how it is, boys, right? I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Look, he understands football, Harry, right? What he did with us, getting us to the Europa League, to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, got sacked when he was in 4th position because he was flirting with the England job, I think was very harsh. But I'm not saying him per se, but I don't believe that nobody could come in and rescue this situation, because Ange Postecoglou is the Messiah, and never before has a manager been this great that no one could supersede him. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm sorry.
I think if we're talking availability, I think a Hoddle-Redknapp partnership would be a good partnership. Who else? I mean, like, who else is free out there that's going to leave, and who wants to come to start off with?
Terzic, maybe, to the end of
brand of football, though.
Well, this is the thing, though. Would you take an interim for the rest of the season, Johnny, to see if you can salvage the season? I'm not sure if people would be that keen on some of the list of people that are actually available, because the list isn't that inspiring. A lot of people, I think, would just prefer to wait till the summer, have there be a longer list of managers available. So would you just would a Redknapp, basically, get short to the point, would a Redknapp do better in the Europa League, better against Arne Slot, better against Unai Emery than Ange would?
Right. So what I'm saying here, just to be clear, I don't think Ange should be sacked right here, right now, today, even though I think he's going to fail ultimately, because I think he has to be given to the semi-final and these next 2 games. I think that's fair. I do think he's going to fail, but should he fail for that, I still believe that this club, when we get our players back, no matter where we are now, if we concentrated on, because I do believe we're too good to go down. I believe we can win enough games between now and the end of the season to get to the to get to the 40 points and stop us going down. But if the only thing that we concentrate on and the only thing we care about is our focus on the winning the Europa League, and can you imagine winning the Europa League and qualifying for the Champions League next season, how different we will look back on this with positivity. Now, I believe that Ange's record is abysmal in Europe. We stumbled through the Europa League, this thing, whatever way you want to dress it up. I believe we stumbled. We have not played fantastic teams. We haven't been facing incredible opposition. And, we've made a bit of a pig's ear of it at times. We've stumbled through and we've got through. His record at Celtic was equally poor. I think there are better managers out there that could hold our hand and potentially see us through to the end of the season. But like I say, he must be given the chance. And if he beats Liverpool and gets us to the final and gets something out of these games, he's going to be there to the end of the season. And then it's a discussion for the end.
We also have the effect of the cup competitions, don't we? I mean, like, players, but if you're a footballer, you want to win competitions. So the more we're in, the better it's for the players. We beating Augsburg Thursday and guaranteed no playoff games because we're through anyway. That, in effect, should, bring some positivity out of the players. They know they're in the next round. They ain't got to play the next games in the Europa League for weeks to come, right? And that should G them up a bit, And winning games can take tiredness out your limbs. I mean, I don't know if it will. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And even, if we went out to Villa, I don't think Spurs fans would be surprised if we went out to Villa, but then that would free up space to rest players who wouldn't play in extra games. I want to beat Villa. I want to beat Liverpool. I want to draw at Liverpool minimum. You know what I mean? So, but I'm just saying, we got to see this is a big week, and these are the weeks you want to be involved in if you're a football club where you're playing like top teams in late stages of competitions or early stages of competition. So, although we go into these games very nervous because of our form's crap, right? All is, there's hope there. There's still hope there, So I'm confident we're going through in the Europa League. The other two competitions, who knows?
Johnny?
Who knows?
We don't know. That's for sure. At least I don't.
Proud.
There was a time where Nuno didn't even know. But
Johnny, excellent as always. I know I don't want to get you in trouble.
Thank you very much.
Give yourself a plug, whichever is going on Football Link. Putting your Twitter in now as well.
Yeah, listen, I'm on Last Word of Spurs tonight at 9 and again on Friday. Hopefully, I hope to be back with Sean with our new channel, Football Link. The link's in the thing which we started up. Unfortunately, he's been hacked again. So we're having to sort of delay. We just started to get going again and unfortunately it's been hacked. But we will be launching that, and that's just going to be football in general, everything football related, whether it's contentious refereeing decisions, finance, football, everything football. And guys, Adrian and Sam and Jack, thanks for having me on, and good chat as everyone. And listen, guys, keep the faith. We're on the floor. How much worse can it get? Well, we keep telling ourselves that every week. But
Johnny, when you're at rock bottom, you can only go sideways or up.
Well, they said that, but if we lose to Brentford and Man U, I think the bottom's still got. I think we might have another couple of floors to go yet.
Yeah, I keep feeling like we've reached the basement, but we keep going deeper somehow. Sorry, interrupted
you. Don't
you.
forget to like and subscribe to
Thanks, Johnny.
The Irish Hotspur. Sorry, and get the channel moving upwards. Thanks very much, guys.
Appreciate you, sir. Well done as always, Johnny.
Cheers,
see you later, man. Right. All right, we only have so much left here, so we're going to wrap this up with some members' comments, and then we're also going to give a plug to Adrian's channel as well as Sam here. Jerome sent in a super chat. Thank you very much, Jerome, saying our under-21s are not doing any better. Then why bring in more pressure on these young lads? I'm not too aware of how the under-21s are doing. I think the big issue is
shocking.
Isn't the big issue, though, Adrian, is that they've had a lot of their best players just kind of taken away.
Craig Matthews out. You've got George Abbott's out doing well at Notts County. You've got Phillips is at Stoke doing well. You've got Divines at Westerlo with Luka Vuskovic. All these players have been taken out of the squad. You've got Lankshire's with us, and he scored 23 league goals last season, over 30 in all competitions. You've got Dane Scarlett was at Oxford. He's been called back. So they've had loads of that. Gunter's now gone out on loan to Wealdstone. I really like the keeper, the 19-year-old keeper. He's gone out. You've got Keelan.
They
sold
Keelan Donnelly, Santiago and Jude.
No, John went,
well,
didn't he? Yeah, Santiago went out to a second division side in Spain.
And so did Sunset Bell.
Yeah, and Sunset Bell went there as well to a second division club in Spain as well. So the team's been ripped apart, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they're not going to do well in those circumstances then, Jerome. And I think also, if I'm not mistaken, the under-21 team is also on the younger side as well. Like the whole team's been depleted, and a lot of their better players are actually on the younger side of the under-21s. Like they're only 18, 19 years of age.
Yeah, they've been promoted from the under-18s who are doing very well.
Right.
So they've promoted those.
It's not been ideal. I understand what you mean, though, that there's only so many young guys left. Can't just talk like we're just going to throw them in and they're going to do swimmingly. But there have been opportunities, I would say, Jerome, where Ange I think has dropped the ball a little bit on giving some of these guys a better chance. Like even Tamworth I think was an opportunity to try to at least play some of those younger players, because half the guys that were out there, it looked like they didn't even want to play against the Tamworth. It looked like they didn't really give much of a shit. So might as well get some of those younger guys in there who would at least try. And also you're not risking any injury, to the guys that you have available, right? So it's just, I don't know. I think there have been times when he could have probably used youngsters a bit more, but I see what you mean. We can't always just say, I'll just throw them in there, because it's not always like it works that way, Jerome. But I'm going to pull this up here though. And just ein Moment, the members comments. Sorry, just picking this up here. Let's see. Should have done this in preparation, but almost there. appreciate all the support that's come in today, everybody. But hopefully, I sent this in a little late. Oh, I did not get any. Well, maybe I sent this in very, very late. The request for you guys to get your comments in, that we could answer for the members. But I sent that in way too late. A little bit all over the place without Dave at the moment in time. So something that you guys do get normally, maybe kind of messed it up this time. But by the way, as a little perk of being a member, we do reserve a little bit of time at the end of shows to answer your guys' questions, anything that you might have left on your mind. But I dropped the ball on that this time around. So we're going to give maybe Adrian a plug here as well as Sam. Adrian, Spurs Diehards, Tottenham Till I Die. Tell us about the channel. Looks like also you're only a few away from 1,000. So
yeah, we've only been going about 6 months, but we got a big Facebook group of 14,500 and we're on Twitter with about 3,000. So, but we've got a show tonight actually in about 40 minutes. Ian Meth is hosting. I'll be co-hosting with him. We've got two great guests on. We've got Ash Matic, who you've all heard of from Spurs Kings, and we've got Jim from Also Spurs. So there's two excellent guests on. Ian will set the topics. I'm not sure which way he's going to go. I've got an idea what we'll be discussing, probably everything here and a bit more. So, yeah, and you'll find a Spurs diehard. So, like TTID. So, like you say, our show goes out in 40 minutes, about 43 minutes.
All right. Everybody got another show. Grab yourself a bite to eat, grab yourself a drink, and you got another bit of Spurs therapy and entertainment after this. So please check it out. Please check it out. And Sam, pleasure as always, sir. Thanks for being a regular. Thanks for making these shows possible and putting your Twitter in here. Any final words from yourself?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me on, Adrian. It's a pleasure as well.
Pleasure, Sam. We'll have to get you on our show. I need your details.
You've got them, Adrian, I think.
If I've got them, okay. I'll look down the listing. I'll find you.
The only thing really that maybe we haven't touched upon that I kind of have been thinking about is a lot of people aren't really talking about Lang or Lange, however you pronounce his name, right?
I think Davis made a big point of it. Yeah.
There are some people talking about it, but I think like the mainstream, I see a few people talking about it on Twitter, but nowhere near as much as, and understandably,
as you would like,
and Levy and other stuff, right? But the one thing I know about, or that I think I know about him, is that he operates in the shadows, right? So I'm wondering if we're going to end up seeing at the end of the window, they're going to potentially sign Jonathan David. I know there's been sort of whispers here and there about him. But that's all kind of gone a bit quiet. I mean, like yesterday or the day before, I think Ali Gold may have kind of mentioned it. But I'm just wondering, it's gone so quiet. We know that we're interested in him. We know he's a potential Daniel Levy type signing in terms of there's an opportunity to be done to maybe get him like cheaper than we maybe originally would have last season, for example. He can play across that front three as far as I'm aware. Admittedly, I've not seen him play very often. I've maybe seen a handful of games, but maybe that is one that they might look to bring in if there is an opportunity to do it. And maybe that's why it's been so quiet, because they're trying to sort of weasel a little deal out of Lille to try and get him on the cheap, rather than potentially saying, oh, let's go and get him for free in the summer. So, 15 million, 20 million deal, maybe that's what we're looking at.
But you get him for free in the summer. But if you're Jonathan David, right? If I'm Jonathan David, I'm not signing for no one. Even if I'm only worth 20, 25 million, I'm waiting till the summer. Because in the summer, loads of clubs are coming for me because I'm free. And then I'm going to say, well, you want me? What do you think my valuation is? Oh, 20, 25 million. All right. I want a £10 million signing on fee, and I want 250k a week in wages, because you're saving that money by not paying a transfer fee.
Yeah.
So I'm not moving anywhere. I mean, we had been linked with Gomez, though, who's nearly at the end of his contract, and we've been linked with Angel Gomez, who's a good footballer. Today we've been linked with Ryan Cherky at Lyon because they're going bust, right? Then you've got Ansu Fati at Barcelona, linked with him. Barcelona want to ship out. See, Lyon and Barcelona want to ship these players out. So they're more likely candidates, whether you like them or not. The fact he's had his injury problems, quality footballer, but you don't know what you're going to get. Is he made of glass or what? And then I like the idea of David Hanko at Feyenoord, the captain. He's 27, but he's left-footed. He can play centre-back and left-back. Wouldn't mind him, but I don't know. I don't know what we're doing behind the scenes. On Lange, guys, I mean, what's your opinions? I mean, I'm still in between on him, balanced, because You could say Werner's a miss. He's not a hit. You could say that Odegaard, who come out the PSG Academy, played at Burnley, and Vincent Kompany raved about him. We haven't seen enough of him. He only had that one season with Burnley in the league. But I'd say that Solanke, Bergvall and Gray are hits. So he hasn't... I mean, people have beat Lang with a stick. Mind you, they're picking up sticks for all topics of conversation to bash Ange and the club with, right? But, I mean, I don't think he's done too badly as starting out. But I don't know what you think.
I think he hasn't necessarily addressed what we've needed. I think that's the problem with Lange, is that he's brought in guys that, yes, we're happy about, but it's not necessarily the immediate needs. What we did need over this summer was an extra forward, basically someone that could compete with Sonny and maybe even take the reins from Sonny, be an extra talisman. We also did need a striker as well. It took us forever to sign Dominic Solanke. It almost seemed like it was either our second choice, third choice, or it was our first choice, and it just seemed to take us forever to get it done. And then we never signed the Neto, we never signed the Eza, we never signed any of those players that we were looking at. And those were the two most important signings.
And on that, Jack, I mean, I wanted, and before the summer, not knowing all the injuries we were going to get, I said, just get me two. Get me Dorgo and get me Eze. I mean, how many fans would you...
And he didn't sign a left-sided defender.
No. And would you... I mean, like, I would have took... I didn't know too much about Solanke. I hadn't watched him a great deal. I only see Brentford when they play us twice a season. You know, I don't follow them or nothing like that. You know, or Bournemouth. Sorry, Bournemouth. Like so. Yeah, I would have been happy with Dorgo and Eze. That would have done me in the summer. You know, but you know, Kingsky's looking okay as well under Lang as well. So yeah, he's. Like, it's too early. It's too early. This window, if we don't get no one in, he will not be the flavour of the month if we don't get no one in the next 6 days.
Right, no, I don't think so at all. I'm looking forward to his transfer roundup when he has no players to speak about over his transfer roundup. But I think, I was just giving my opinion on it when you asked. I think we'll wrap it up there, though. Thanks, everybody, for the support. Please check out Adrian's channel. Get him over 1,000. I'm sure there are plenty of people that maybe know about him, but, haven't actually, seen his channel yet. So please, everybody, check him out. Get him over 1,000. Thanks, Sam, as well in the comments for giving up his time this evening. I'll see you all tomorrow. Members preview. Plenty of good stuff coming out tomorrow, everybody. So look out for that. Come on, you Spurs.
Thanks for the invite. I have to get you guys on our show sooner or later.
All righty. Thanks, Adrian.
Don't dare